Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's world famous Christmas Advent Calendar, day number 4. And it's going to be a rather nice day. It's going to be a very important day. It's an important day for the history of the football club. So why not get two very important people from the Spurs YouTube community to join myself and Mr. Daigle. A long-awaited return, Mr. King Arthur himself. All hail the King. Welcome back. Big up. Bow down to you, sir. How are you doing today, Arthur?
I'm very well indeed, thank you very much. I'm like the weather, susceptible to change.
And of course, another well-loved community member, Mr. Jimbo. How are you, sir? And how are you?
Excellent. I like it that you've got the two old boys on together. Hey? Everything's good, thank you, Ben.
Great stuff. And Mr. Daigle, how are you doing today? How are you doing today?
I'm good. I've colour coordinated today. Well, listen, as I've said, and people hear on these little introductions, that there are some days that are blockbusters. There's some days that aren't. There's some days where there's one person that stands out. There's some where there's 5. There's a very good day today, number 4. But there is the history maker, the icon, the just the biggest of the big today.
Absolutely. But of course, it's the Tottenham on Tour Christmas Advent Calendar. So how do we start this? With a Christmas cracker joke. Arthur has actually got 2. So we're going to let Arthur start this one before going to Jimbo. What is your Christmas cracker joke?
The first one is, who is Santa's favourite singer? Elfish Presley.
Oh dear. Do you know what? We've actually had. I'm actually surprised you said that, because somewhere in this I can remember someone saying beyond sleigh. So there's a what?
What's the second one, sir? What's the
second one, Arthur?
Oh, the second one is, why are snowmen so popular? Because they're cool.
You know what? You have to love these. I love this humour.
It's stupid but funny.
Exactly.
They're so bad, they're brilliant. Mr. Jimbo, what is your Christmas cracker joke of the day?
What happened to the man that stole the Advent calendar?
I know this one.
He got 25 days.
Good work, sir. Good work, sir. And Mr. Daigle, what is your Christmas cracker joke of this one?
My one today is, how many letters are there in the Christmas alphabet?
I don't know.
I ain't got a clue.
25, because there's no L. I was actually very proud of seeing that one. I saw that one. I was like, that's all good.
And finally, me. Why did Santa go to the doctor?
Go on, Ben.
I think I know it.
It's bad elf.
Nope. I was going to go. There's one joke where it says tinselitis.
Because of his bad elf.
Right, so there you go. Everyone in the comments, don't forget to say who's got the best joke of the day. That's going to be a regular daily thing. Now, day 4 today is a huge day in Tottenham Hotspur. And we're starting, as I said, with the biggest bang, Mr. Tottenham. If it wasn't for this guy here, there would be no Tottenham. We all say, the stadium, you look at everything that's been done now, it is the stadium that Nick built. The legend, the icon, Mr. Tottenham to anyone and everyone. This one is going to take time. That's just his management. We've got both, haven't we, Ben?
He's got his players in stuff and his managerial record as well, or managerial honours.
Ben, take it away.
This guy even though he passed away, what was it, 20 years ago? He passed in 2002, something like that. He passed in 2002. Every single part of that ground has got Bill Nick's thumbprint on it. He's more important than the cement, than the players. He is just, even now, he is more important because every single part of what makes us love the football club is all down to him and his managerial skills, his people skills, his community skills. This was a guy in the day when he was manager of Tottenham. He lived in Tottenham. Like, none of this living in either Hayden Boys or Chigwell or Loughton in my area or living further afield. This man lived in Tottenham and he walked about the Tottenham faithful. Like, loads of people's stories of walking down the road, seeing Bill Nicholson water his plants. And every single wonderful thing about Tottenham is because he loved the football club and he took it upon himself to be the guy. And we can't be any grateful. And just the amount of games he played, 2 league titles as a player, and all those trophies as a manager. It's unbelievable. It's totally unbelievable. And everything is about him. Arthur?
Can I just add that I actually lived round the corner from him at the time. Yeah. He lived in White Hart Lane. Doesn't go straight up from the station. It runs where the bend comes. It runs round what used to be the old school. It's all flats and stuff like that now. That's called Creighton Road, and that's where he lived. And I lived at number 9 White Hart Lane. So he was only just up the road from me.
Well, what an address to have.
Oh, yeah.
but Arthur, go on. What can you tell us about him?
Bill Nicholson, one of the most decent blokes I can recall, because don't forget, I mean, I'm a lot younger than him, but I met him through my father, who was a mad Spurs fan. And he was friends with Bill Nick. My father used to have his own building and decorating business. And I'm not sure if he did some work for Bill Nick or not, but he knew him and knew him very well. We knew he was a solid guy, i.e. he was a northerner, come from Yorkshire, and was quite bluff, but straight speaking, and you knew exactly where you stood with him. And I always remember him for being this imposing person, you know. He was very, very, when you met him, you were very impressed. A real solid guy, a man's man. You don't get many of them these days. But he was, if Bill said something, that was it. You believed it, you know, and it was true. But yeah, as I say, I remember him on quite a few occasions that we met him through my father. Also, he used to have a goalkeeper called Brown, and my father knew him. He had a store up at Northumberland Park, just behind the stadium, and my father knew him quite well as well. So I was lucky. I met some of these brilliant older guys through my parents, you know. My mother was a mad Spurs fan as well, so I had to be a Spurs fan, didn't I? It's in the blood, navy blue and white.
But what do you remember about Bill Nicholson's career as a manager? Because you would have grown up when he was manager, because you grew up in the 60s. What do you remember?
I was first taken to Spurs when I was 3 years old. I can't remember that, but I remember a game in 1951 when I was 6. We played a German side, and Eddie Bailey jumped up for the ball. You could hear the skulls crack all the way around the stadium. It echoed, and Eddie Bailey was never the same player after that. But Bill Nick was one of the first out there to, try and sort the problem out. Don't forget, in those days, medical facilities weren't as good as they are now. So everybody was umming, oohing and ahhing, but I remember it quite distinctly. But Yeah, anyway, Bill Nick, yes. He was one of the best managers I think this country's ever seen. And I am still annoyed after all these years. He was never knighted. First man to win a European trophy in this country. And he got nothing for it. And that saddens me. I know we call him Sir Bill, and he should have been Sir Bill. But that's just my side of it, you know. How do I feel? I think he was probably... I don't think we've had a better manager since, to be honest with you. And you've only got to look at the trophies that he won with the club.
Yeah.
And it was never good enough where Bill was concerned. Nothing was ever good enough. We could have won 4-0 and he'd say, nice game, lads. Right. On the next game, I want 5 or 6 goals. You know, he was always pushing. But a driver, I think you'd call him a driver. And he would never enthuse over people. He would tell them, okay, pat them on the back. And that, if you got that from Bill Nick, then you were, you know, you were doing well. But he was a very solid chap. And a typical bluff Yorkshireman. The only guy that got near that, I think, was Keith Birkinshaw, another Yorkshireman. He did well in his time. But Bill, well, I think, as I say, not only was Bill, should Bill be knighted, but I think really he was a saint in his own way where football is concerned. You know,
that's because we're biased Tottenham fans, though, right?
we're incredibly biased. Jim.
Well, when you become a Spurs fan, I was lucky enough that my cousins were Spurs fans, and my uncle and his dad. They used to take me to Spurs, and they used to talk about Bill Nick. So, and like, they had so many stories about him, and about a lot of other players. Well, I mean, I did some homework, and he won the first English club to win a European Cup.
Yeah,
they beat Atletico Madrid 5-1.
That's it.
Who were the favourites at the time? So 5-1. And I'll tell you something else that I learned that I never had a clue about. Do you know that he got disillusioned with players' wages?
Yes.
He got disillusioned thinking they were getting paid too much.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Imagine what you think now.
I mean, what would he think now?
Isn't that where he fell out with Chivers?
Yep. That's it. And then he resigned, didn't he?
He
in
did.
74, 75.
After the final, in the cup final, when they all had a fight. We'll go to you, Brian. What do you think about Bill Nicholson?
I'm going to touch on what Jim said. I don't think there is a Spurs fan that starts supporting this football club, whether it be you as a young boy, whether it be someone that's watching from afar and wanting to get into the English Premier League or whatever, within the first 6 months to a year, where if there's one person from the history you will know, it is this man. To this day, I'll say this is the one thing I'm going to relate to now with him. How this football club was trying to get naming rights, didn't not call this the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, didn't call it the Bill Nicholson Arena. It beggars belief with me.
Or just call the Park Lane the Bill Nicholson stand.
Exactly, which just something like that, because nothing this football club has, and I do mean nothing, is without this man. Yes, we were a club before that, but we got put on the map.
Yeah.
We are established. You just look at it. Look, Bill Nicholson, 314 games. Forget the goals. 2 titles. You go on to a manager. He is our most successful manager by a country mile.
Yeah.
In fact, you could probably put a few managers together to get to his trophy hall, and you wouldn't get
more than a few, Brian.
He is. I mean, I never got to meet the man. But one thing we've seen it, unfortunately, and this goes for all football clubs. Players, managers have sadly passed away, as we've just experienced quite recently with Terry Venables.
Yeah.
I was going to Tottenham regularly when this man passed away. I had my season ticket. The amount of respect, emotion, and everything that went for this man, and people got to remember, him and his wife's ashes are under the centre circle.
Yeah.
They're under the centre circle in the old ground. They dug them up and moved them to the centre circle of the new stand. This man, I don't want to talk about his honours, and all you can say, there is no Tottenham Hotspur without Bill Nicholson, and if you just need to let that sink in.
Yeah.
This one man is the heartbeat of everything this football club goes on to do. For the rest of eternity, you look at it and people revert back to Frank Sinatra and say, there's the original, there's the greatest, there's the... This is Sinatra. This is Mr. Tottenham, Lord Tottenham, Sir Tottenham, King Tottenham, the lot.
All of them.
My God, that was emotional and passionate.
Yeah.
But listen,
this is the problem. We've got loads of these in this one, but
exactly. And we move next to the next one, and the next one. I love this picture. I mean, once again, I will say, look at how high tech the training ground was back then.
yeah,
It looked like a washing line for goals there in the back end. Look at the size of the footballs and the weight they would have been. But this man, Ben, you go first as always.
Yeah.
This man is very, very special.
There's a story my uncle always tells me about Danny Blanchflower. He was, when they were playing, there was a really snarky reporter that was going around the players' lounge interviewing the players. I can't remember what the game was. It might have been Blackburn or someone like that. Doesn't matter who we played. And they went up to Mr. Blanchflower and asked him, do you think we're going to win the game? Do you think Tottenham are going to win the game today? And like in a really snarky tone. And Danny Blanchflower turned to them and said, well, that's why we play the football match, to find out who wins.
Yep.
He was a man that every single thing he said, it remembered, like the echo of glory quotes. It's just everything the man said about Tottenham was about doing things the right way, not boring people to death, making people who spent their hard-earned money, because money was tough in those days in the 60s after the war, and money was difficult then. So if you went and you had the money to go and watch a football team, you had to entertain them, play football with style, with passion, hard work. Is all those things. That is, if the most current footballers need to listen to everything that man said. We've got football managers now. We've had a couple of them in the past few years that will just bore you to death, and boring. And he was the guy. We speak with Graham a lot, and he likes to say that the actual manager of the 60s team wasn't Bill Nicholson, and it was Danny Blanchflower. That's how influential he was in that dressing room. All Bill Nick did was set them up, say, this is how we're going to play football, and then Danny Blanchflower would take over. He was the manager on the pitch. He was the guy. He was a proper football man, proper football player, and we've never really replaced that sort of captain at the football club. We've had some great captains down the years, Steve Perryman, Ledley King, to name a few of them. But to do what this man did and what he brought to the football club in terms of, I don't know what to call it, philosophy of football is endless. And it's still now. It still exists now. That's
the Tottenham way.
We'll go to Jim firstly to talk about Danny Blanchflower.
Go on, Jim.
I know it's before your time slightly, Mr. Jim.
It was just when I was born in 62.
Yeah.
So I just missed out, not that I would know even if I was one or two. But I mean, some more facts that I found out by reading about him that I never knew. One is, as captain, he won his first 11 games. Did you know that? That's unbelievable. When you look now, right, when they win 4 or 5 on the row, everybody gets so excited.
Yeah.
And that year we won the FA Cup as well. So we won the league and the FA Cup. I mean, what can you say? What would we do to have that now? To have players like him in our team now, with that drive and that will to win. I mean, it would just be unbelievable.
And we've talked about partnerships a lot in this series, and you'll see some of them from like Greaves and Gilzine, Kane and Son. And he was part of another legendary partnership, Danny Blanchflower and Dave Mackay. Imagine we had that now. Imagine we had that now. Proper football players, proper men, leading with example. Didn't need adulation. They just got on with the job. They rolled their sleeves up and they did the job.
Ben, you had it right. Men.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Proper men.
Yeah.
None of these pussies like we've got now.
Jim, Arthur, what do you remember of Danny?
Oh, silky smooth. Very clever with his passing. Unbelievable player. And we always used to call him the quiet man because he was never a mouthy or noisy guy. Very quiet, but he was the general. He strode onto that park and everybody knew he was the governor. You know, very, very intelligent where football was concerned. Knew where and when to put the pass. Scored a few himself, but his main game was pulling the strings. And as I've often heard, I mean, Brian knows, I've often said it, and you might have heard me, Ben, about string pullers. You know, when we had Modric, proper string puller.
Yep.
Ericsson was a sort of string puller, and not as good as Modric. But one of the great string pullers was definitely Danny Blanchflower. He made us tick. He was the heart. You know, and then he got soldiers around him like, you know, the toughies that could protect him.
Yeah.
Because the opposition knew if they shut him out, then they stopped the feed bank operating.
Yeah. It's lucky he had Dave Mackay next to him. That's a factor in itself. Dave Mackay, the hardest.
That's like having the SAS and Mossad protecting you when Dave Mackay was on the pitch. He was that good. But I will say with Danny Blanc, I can't really talk about the player. The two lads have spoken about before, but all I do know is my grandma and grandpa, bless them, diehard Tottenham fans, lived in Tottenham. My mum was born in Tottenham, lived in Tottenham till she was about 13, 14. My mum is obviously a Spurs fan, not as hardcore as, thank God, not my mum. My mum version of me is.
We're not going to see Mama Daigle doing this anytime soon.
No, she actually did say it when I was in London. She did say it. I don't think she did the fingers though. But she and my grandma were both obsessed with this man. Like, you got to remember, now footballers are like the Beatles. They're pop stars. They're this. There's posters on the walls for both men and women. My mum loves this man so much. I was saying to Jim in the back room, whenever my mum is listening to a quiz and the question of sport or something like that, and the question comes up, which former Spurs player? My mum answers every single one, Danny Blanchflower. It could be like, what player in 1988? Danny Blanchflower. She loves this man. And you just, again, you one thing I forgot to mention was Bill Nick, and you mentioned it here, Ben, so I'll blend it into together. Is you remember all the Bill Nick famous quotes that are now etched in the stadium, in our folklore. Defeat will have an echo of glory, and all these. A lot of them are Danny Blanchflowers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have scattered around our training room and training ground now, same players, different manager, or anything that Conte said, or even AVB, Martin Yole, any of them. The real things that stand out are things by the great man we spoke about before and the great man we're speaking about now. And you can't get higher praise than that, to have your quotes, let alone your footballing ability, etched into our history. And talking of history, we're going to bring up this man. Alan Mullery. Ben, take it away, brother.
I don't know too much about Alan Mullery. All I know is he joined us from Fulham. I did actually know that, unlike some people. Alan Mullery was a hard man. He was hard as nails in midfield. I mean, we were struggling in midfield before we brought him in. But when he came in, the goals he scored for the UEFA Cup were vital in that UEFA Cup win. He was hard as nails, but proper Scotsman, got about the pitch. But there's another one in our history books. Yeah, he was a hard man, but he was a silky footballer as well. On the deck, played both feet. Just a great football player for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It's another one. Look, and that 300 appearances. 300 appearances and all those trophies. Was a Spurs man. He played for Fulham and he played for other clubs after that, but he was most definitely a Spurs man. They might not. That's why you still see Muller's coming back and he still gives his wisdom. What do you remember of Alan Mullery, Mr. Jimbo?
Well, I was still a bit young. I don't remember a lot. But reading up on him, I mean, the things you've got it here. He scored the decisive goal in the cup final against Wolves 3-2. You know what I mean? That's just to win a UEFA Cup. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It says here, was one of the key players for Spurs that won the FA Cup 1967. Captain then took victory in 1971. I mean, I can go on and on. But, as I said before, I've got family members that talk to me about him and say what a great player he was and what a great man he was as well. Not just a great player, a good man on and off the pitch. I mean, what more can you say? Yeah.
Mr. Arthur.
I was just going to say, can you imagine in them days, right? Yeah. Players like Bill Nick and Mackay, imagine them getting kicked and rolling around on the floor. 6 or 7 rolls.
Your leg broke.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to put it. Arthur, what were you about to say, Alan Mullery?
Alan Mullery, one of my all-time favourites again. This was a man we got from Fulham, and he didn't realise he'd been transferred. There's a story to that, but I won't waste time on that. What I will say is this. This is the man, and I was there and saw him knock himself out when he dived to hit a low ball into the net against Wolves in the UEFA Cup final. And when the crowd went crazy, I mean, the whole ground erupted. He was a phenomenal player. Came out of nowhere, ball came out, and he knocked himself out because he dived into the ground, knocked himself out. So he didn't realise he'd scored. This is also the man who, when playing for England, was the only player ever to mark Pele out of a game. And they forged a good friendship, a lifetime friendship over that, because they respected each other so much. Yeah, Alan Mullery, fantastic player. A man anybody would have been proud to have in their team. So we were lucky. We were lucky because we had him.
I've got to say, just taking over from Arthur, first of all, how many players now ducked out for the challenge for collision of a post or whatever, which I can understand, but then obviously, like you said, to be one of the only people to mark Pele out of a game, you're dying on that for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. But all I can remember, first of all, Ben, you said it right at the beginning, hard as nails. And there's, like I said, I'm going to keep referring back to a video. You'll see it, me talking about it. So I don't know if you can catch it on YouTube, or Arthur and Jim may have seen it as well. In 1982, Spurs released a 100-year video celebration, which showed you everything about Tottenham from start to current date of 1982. And they keep showing a goal. I think it's a volley he scored against Crystal Palace. Just outside the area, where when you want to see a strike with a sweet spot, and when you hear players say they knew it the second they hit the ball, it's you got to remember as well, not only are these players the hard men that the hard men of today wouldn't even go near, they're the hard men playing on pitches. We talk about, can you imagine these players playing on those pitches?
Yeah.
Well, those players were so good playing on those pitches. Could you imagine them on these pitches?
Phenomenal.
And Alan Mullery would have been one of the players that would have absolutely dominated midfield if he was playing now. But here we go. We're getting up to some more current dates now, and we're coming up to a guy that's had 2 spells, like Bill Nick, but not as manager, 2 as players. Let's talk Mickey Hazard, Ben.
Again, we've seemed to have picked a day where I'm only going to know one of the players on this list. But I've had the pleasure of speaking to Mickey Hazard a few times at the events he does at the Royale in Tottenham before a game. I'm not sure but they're great events if you've never been to one of them. Just a really lovely bloke. First and foremost, he was on a stream with Jimbo a few weeks ago on Just a Girl with Us Spurs with Kate. And he's just the nicest bloke on the planet. He's got time for everyone. He's just got time for everyone. When Bobby Kay came over with the little ones, they had Mickey Hazard on their channel as well.
Yeah.
And Bobby spoke to Mickey about their trip to the North London derby and yada yada yada. And Mickey, typical Mickey Hazard, would say, "Want to meet for lunch?" And that is the sort of bloke he is. He is just a diamond of a human being, absolute diamond. And I always thought that whenever you hear him speak on anything, he's almost got a tear in his eye whenever he speaks about Tottenham. That's how much he loves Tottenham. It's almost like he's lost for words half the time because he just loves Tottenham so much. He does great work at the club as an ambassador. You see him if you're fortunate enough to have the club level tickets, you'll see him walking around that player section where he's talking about just wonderful career at Tottenham. 2 more trophies. Just an excellent human being as well. And it's a shame he had to go at the Chelsea, but he's still our boy. He's still ours.
Correct. I mean, Jim, obviously you spoken to him very, very recently.
Well, he's one of my. Well, you know, he's one of my heroes of all time of Tottenham. He's one. If you want to talk to me about favourite players, he's up there in my top 3 favourite players. And when you said we'd done that show with him after, he's invited me and Kate to do a tour with him. Yeah. He's invited us to a game and to have dinner with him after. I mean, the man is just such a nice person. It's unbelievable. But as far as football, I was going through a bad time when he played for Tottenham in my life. So it's quite kind of, that team's kind of special to me. And his football, didn't like defending. I'll tell you that now. But can you imagine him in this team now? He used to love to go forward and attack and take players on. They didn't play him and Hoddle together a lot. But when they did play together, it was magic. And when he was with, he had Garth Crooks up there with him. I mean, them days, to me, they're my favourite times because of my life at that time. And I went to Tottenham nearly every single game. I mean, and he's just, to me, I can't speak more highly of the man as a person or as a footballer. He was just silk on the pitch. And he did go to Chelsea, but he didn't want to go to Chelsea. Yeah. He was kind of forced out of the club, and they told him that he wouldn't be playing if he turned the contract down. So he did go, but he didn't want to go. And he said the day he got there, he couldn't wait to come back. So he is Tottenham. If he cuts himself, I'm sure he's going to bleed blue.
Well, yeah. Well, when I have my go, there's something I'm going to say that I've heard him say. Not going to say word for word, because I've got a good feeling Mickey might be watching this one when it comes out. And he said something. I'm going to paraphrase it. But Arthur, what do you remember about the great guy?
What do I remember? I remember being a regular goer to the ground as I was. He was everything that's been said before by Ben and Jim is smack on. But the one thing I can say is he didn't play so much for Spurs because of Glenn Hoddle. Yeah, they didn't want the two in the side at the same time because they were too alike. That was part of the problem, and to me, upset me because I thought Mickey Hazard was better than Hoddle. And there'll be lots of arguments around.
That's a controversial
there's a Christmas cracking.
You know what? You agree with him.
But I think Mickey Hazard was not just a fantastic person, but a great player. I've met him a few times. But
I think you might be meeting him very soon if he hears this, and you've just said he's better than Hoddle.
Well, his ability on the ball had to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he pulled, some of the tricks he pulled out, well, you were just left astounded, gobsmacked. And I thought, if anything, he was every bit as good as Hoddle, and that was the trouble. You had two great players playing for the club at the same time, and they couldn't accommodate them.
He was absolute silk. He was silk. And if
Silk,
you ask me who I would prefer, Hoddle or Hazard, I would have took Hazard.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you.
That's controversial.
I want to say thank you to you two, because I've now got the perfect description to put in this, saying stand back for a bombshell. But listen, Mickey Hazard. First of all, the quote I was going to say, and I'm sure I speak to him occasionally as well, very, very occasionally. He says something along the lines of born and raised in Sunderland, but Tottenham's home. Yeah. Words to that effect is what he says. I got to see a bit of him, again, VHS videos, and if people will remember, and the two below me will remember, an FA Cup win against Chelsea, where Glenn Hoddle scores an incredible half-volley goal, but the team move, one-touch football, there is a flick in it from Mickey Hazard, which is just sublime. So I didn't get to see him play. I didn't get to see him play in that spell. His second spell, however, when he came back from Swindon, my God, sir, he would have been mid-30s then. And I will never, ever forget. There's one guy, I don't remember all the games I went to, but I can't remember the year, but it was the season he came back, and it was when we had the Umbro kits. We're going back a long, long time.
Yeah.
We drew 3-3 with Liverpool. And the best player on the pitch by a million miles that day was Mickey by a country mile. The flicks that he ran a game like I've never seen a man of that age. That game, when anyone talks about that game, there's some great goals, great him. But you talk about the man he is, and everyone talks about, listen, he's brilliant. He'll come on podcasts. He'll come on streams. He'll give time for everyone. I went to the Ginola evening with Kim Arthur. He was there, spent a hell of a lot of time with us, the We Are Tottenham TV boys, Danny Kiriakou, like the group we were with. But there's one story I will tell about him. I can't remember if it was an FA Cup game or Burnley was still in the Premier League. But do you remember there was a game that got snowed off? And Pitch made all the trips to Burnley.
Forest.
Was it Forest? I thought it was Burnley.
No, not in Forest. They got snowed off as well.
Okay, well, no, this game that I'm thinking about was Burnley, because I can remember my mates. But anyway, people remember that there was a very big thing made. There was a couple that made their way from Dallas all the way to the game, because they were only going for a long weekend, and they couldn't. Obviously, the first time they were seeing Spurs, they went all the way to Burnley, and that week there was a special evening with Ledley King. I think it was Ledley and Dawson, actually. I think it was Ledley and... Anyway, he arranged tickets for them. Well, the very same thing happened to two of my very, very good friends at Toronto Spurs. So I literally messaged Mickey Hazard on Facebook and said, "Hey, Mickey, buddy, how are you? I hope you're okay. Just want to say wonderful thing you've just done for the people in Dallas. I don't want to make a big thing on Twitter, but I've got..." Because obviously if everyone says, "Oh, I came here from around the world," I said, "I've got two of my friends that have done exactly the same from Toronto, Canada." And I said, they're joking about because they think that's snow back in Burnley. They're like, "Come to Toronto and see what snow is." But I was like, "Please, is there anything you can do?" Within 5 minutes, what's their names? Yup, send them these details. They're coming. So I phoned them up and said, "Listen, you've made all your way to Burnley. You've flown in. How long are you there for?" Bang. And Mickey looked after them like never before. I honestly... Like you said, he is a character.
Yeah.
And he just loves the club. And do you know what? He's a pillar of, when it stands for loving Spurs and having Spurs in your heart, like you said, Jim, if you cut him open, he will bleed blue and white. And now we'll move on to the last person, and everyone's going to know him. And finally, as we are with most of these, Ben can actually say he saw this person play. We're talking about one half of the Belgian barrier,
Yeah.
We may or may not be talking about the other half tomorrow on day 5. Who knows? Stay tuned.
Yeah.
But Ben, over to you, buddy.
Proper centre back. He's possibly he's up there with the best centre back we had since Ledley King left. That's how good a player Toby Alderweireld was. You can argue that his partner Jan was more of the brain of that partnership. But Jan was sort of struggling in that scenario with some of the partners he was playing with, the Fazios and etc., the players he was playing with at the time. When Toby Alderweireld came in, Jan Vertonghen went from being a really good player to being a great player. And that's what Toby Alderweireld did. He was the base. He was absolute solid defender next to a brilliant player in Jan Vertonghen. His long passing, like some of the passes he made, right? Like we joke a lot about Dare to Dawson, like the 90-yard diagonal balls, and then some of them would go wayward. He would do a 90-yard pass to Dele Alli, and he'd be back of the net. Bang, done.
Everton goal.
Bang, one touch, bang.
Well.
He was an artillery gunner. He was so accurate with those.
Don't say that word. Artillery. Change the second word.
What do you do it? An artillery coupler?
Officer.
Yeah, let's say an artillery. Yeah. It's definitely better than being called a gunner.
He was a general. Him and Jan at the back were just two generals. They got stuff done. Part of the best back four I've ever seen, being a Tottenham fan in my 28 years. And he was a classy defender. When we played against Borussia Dortmund in UEFA, I believe it was the UEFA Cup at the time, and Aubameyang had the ball, and just Toby Alderweireld was an absolute, just could not get past him. He could not get past him, and he got the ball off of him, and he brought it out again. He was just a wonderful footballer. He was a wonderful, wonderful player, and it's so sad that his time ended with no trophies again. There's one man, we won't mention him, but I'll do that. But another wonderful player that's played at Tottenham and deserved the world for being at Tottenham, and he's left with nothing. But we'll remember him for just being a class footballer, and he'll always be a cult hero at Tottenham throughout many years. What do you remember of Toby, Mr. Jim?
I mean, I think you've said it all, Ben. There's not much more you can say. The man could ping a ball. Oh my God, he was amazing for a defender. The way he could ping a ball straight on somebody's foot, it was just unbelievable. And you say about him, since you've supported Spurs, one of the best defenders you've ever seen. I've been a Spurs fan 55 years, and he's one of the best I've ever seen. You know, I can't remember them all, obviously, but he is definitely one of the best I've ever seen in all them years. And he did bring Jan up to a standard. I'm sorry, I mean, Jan's a great player, but he brought him up another level. And he's just...
What partnerships are about? It's another partnership, Toby and Jan.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just a fantastic footballer. I mean, there's not much more I can say. And he still, now, is always posting stuff about
Tottenham. Still a great defender.
He's still playing.
Yeah, but he's still posting stuff about Tottenham when we win games, and so he's still following us. So he's another one, probably bleeds blue.
Always.
I mean, there's not much more I can say, but Ben said exactly what I would have said.
Arthur, what have you got to say about Toby?
Well, probably one of the best centre backs I've ever seen in my long life of watching Spurs and other clubs. He was the steel in the centre of that defence, with Vertonghen feet basically partnering him and feeding off of him at times. Because if you remember, Vertonghen would make those surging runs and even scored a few from those, acting more like a winger. But that was only because you had the centre of the defence was like the Rock of Gibraltar, i.e. Toby. You know, he held it all together. And one of the finest pairings we've ever had. But Toby, as a standalone, was a fantastic centre back. What more can you say? In a lot of ways, he had similarities to Mike England. Of my day, and And Maurice Norman was another one. Big, tall, solid guy. You got to get round him. It's like trying to get round the Rock of Gibraltar, you know. Superb. And we actually picked when we picked Toby to join us. I don't think, no matter where you look, I don't think you would have found a better player. He was great. So he should be, if he's not already, in our Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know, along with Vertonghen.
Well, you look at. I mean, there's a few things I want to say about this man, but first of all, if anyone says to me, like, if I'm thinking hairstyles of Tottenham players, the four players I think of: Chris Waddle, Edgar Davids, Ginola, Toby Alderweireld. Not that question ever comes
Never
up.
had a hair out of place,
but they are iconic hairstyles. I will say, first of all, I'm going to quash this now. Jan Vertonghen was the better of the two. I will go to war.
This is a controversial show.
I'll go to war on this, but this isn't about Jan. This is about Toby. What I will say is, when he came to us, there was a release. Obviously, we got him. I don't know how other teams, at the price he came for, didn't snap him up. I saw him at Ajax, saw him at Atletico Madrid where he didn't sell. He looked really good at Southampton.
Yeah.
I thought he was a good defender. My word, I didn't realise how superior this defender was. And you look at it, we talk partnerships. Whichever way you look at it, they both improved each other. Yeah. They both improved each other. I think it is. I think when I say Jan is better than Toby, it's only because of the style of football that they both had different styles now. But that's about Super Jan. Toby, I literally, we had a defence that used to ship quite a few goals over previous managers because of the style of football we played. Them two, for 2 seasons, they were more dependable than a brick wall.
Oh, yeah.
You could have put a brick wall in goal and there's a chance the brick wall would have crumbled. Those two, it doesn't matter. I mean, those two together were incredible. Near the end, he started, obviously, there was a bit of backroom drama, which there always is at Tottenham. But like you said, he's one of the guys that we've got a few ex-foreign players that leave this club, but their heart is taken by Tottenham Hotspur. And he is definitely one, isn't it? So that's day 4 wrapped up, Ben. We've done all 4.
Excellent.
5 of 4. Jim and Arthur, just want to thank you very, very much indeed. Jim,
I just thank Arthur because I learned some stuff from Arthur today.
There's always a learning day.
All I can say, see what we're doing? It's the season of giving. And the season, well done. Jim, quickly, where can people find you, good sir?
Just a girl loves Spurs. Just like I'm on her channel every Wednesday. You know, she's on every day at 1 o'clock. And just when I get invited on shows, which I do get invited on shows. Yeah. So people don't really want to see me.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do, Jim.
Yes, they do.
She's prettier than me.
And Arthur, where can people find you, sir?
Well, I'm just aimlessly wandering about until I get invited on shows like this. Yeah. Perhaps you never know. Perhaps I might get a fixed spot somewhere. But yeah.
Do you know what? I'd love for Kate to have Arthur on. I would, because it's so educational.
There you go. There you go. Look at that. We're now becoming a finder's fee. We've got into the world of agents and we're putting collaboration together.
Brian, if you're the agent, I'll do the accounts and tax.
There you go. There you go. And what have you got coming up on the coffee company?
Usual shows, Monday through Friday. We've got some great new shows coming up soon. And yeah, we've got a few new ideas coming up. But there's a Christmas coffee. It's Christmas season. Coffee company Christmas coffee. You should buy it. It's really tasty. But yeah. We've got to do the Johnny. Yeah, I can't do it as well as Johnny.
Johnny does it automatically. He knows exactly where to do it. Yeah. But yeah, guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Will be coming up tomorrow, and it will be happening every single day up until Christmas Eve. And there may or may not be a Christmas bonanza on Christmas Day. Who knows?
Who
there will.
knows?
Maybe there won't. But Ben,
Come on, you Spurs.
damn right. Come on,
Yeah.
you Spurs. Merry Christmas.
And
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas to all.
Everyone
Yeah, Merry
here at
Christmas.
Tottenham on Tour, we wish you all a wonderful Christmas season. Enjoy yourselves, spoil yourselves, have a wonderful time with your friends, family and friends. And we'll
Yeah.
see you on day 5. Come on, you Spurs, everyone.
Come on, you Spurs.